Yes, it's that time again. It's time for me to take some of this hot and spicy loveliness and shove it right in my... No, I'm not putting it in my eyeball. There it goes. Oh, I love doing this. Now look, as we pick up the pieces of the Terra mess, I think it's fair to ask questions about the validity of other chains and whether they can fight for their place in the white heat or even the Tabasco heat of crypto. To do so, we're going to need multi-chain protocols that make it fast, easy and safe to float between chains and do the business of doing business. And that's why today's hot spiciness, oh it is spicy, is Catalog, the first app built on the Ren blockchain, one of the class of 2017 chains that spoke to a very specific class of cryptism with its sophisticated dark pools. Catalog aims to become the very first metaversal exchange, allowing you to swap between chains like a KEX, but do it with a DEX. Over $10 billion, in fact, has already been exchanged on Catalog, and I predict we will see a whole bunch more of these metaversal apps. Now, coming up, I'll be speaking to the founders and getting a demo of the exchange itself. Multi-chain interoperability without bridges. Yeah, it's very spicy, and it's coming right up. DeFi Saver is an all-in-one dashboard for creating, managing, and tracking your DeFi positions with automatic liquidation protection and leverage management options. Famous in the space for its automation features, DeFi Saver has been the darling of many investors and degens alike during big market crashes and swings, having saved thousands of positions from liquidation when borrowing and leveraging DeFi assets. Its recently upgraded automation service now provides different automated strategies to MakerDAO CDP owners. The latest addition to its Power Suite now offers non-custodial stop loss, take profit, and stables liquidation protection strategies. Automate your DeFi asset management and save yourself from liquidation with DeFi Saver. So I'm here with Jazz and Susruf, the brains behind Catalog, and guys, I think it's worth taking a moment to step back and look at how our entire universe has been turned upside down by what has happened in the last few days. And I wonder how that affects you as a company that's building a cross-chain, multi-chain exchange protocol in the light of what we've seen and what most likely will happen in terms of regulation. I really just want to get a hot take from you guys on how you see it all.
Yeah. I can start. Firstly, thanks for having us on. It's great to be on the show. I think, there's a lot that's happened over the last couple of days. Where do we begin? I think the thing that's probably most interesting to me is like the second and third order effects out of all of this. Like obviously it's very sad what's happened to Luna and UST and everything, but especially like the retail traders that have been burnt from this, how long it's going to take them to recover and enter the market. Investment funds, firms that have been wiped out, a lot of these guys, it's going to be harder to get investments, start new projects, get funding, attract interest, and then company treasuries that would have been in UST, all of these things. And that's only the second order effects, right? There are probably third order effects that come after those. And I think it's only going to be, we're only going to find out about them over the next 3 to 6 months. So we'll see what happens.
I guess the narrative of ETH killers or alternative layer ones was big. I used to work at Harmony, and I know what it's like to be one of these challenger layer ones. But your job isn't really to challenge; it's to connect. So let's refocus on what it is that you're building and how you're building it. So can you give us an overview of Catalog and why you think it's cool?
Yeah, absolutely. So like these market movements, although they affect us in the sense that, retail traders might be affected, institutions, all of these things. But in terms of like volume, it's actually beneficial for the platform when we're seeing these large spikes in any direction. We're seeing, a lot of people buying or selling. The protocol works the same. And we see, more users when there's more volatility. So in that sense, it's actually kind of beneficial for us, as bad as that might sound. But what we're building right now is, maybe we can start with a bit of a background on.
Yeah, let's dig into Catalog. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so both myself and Susruf, we started working at Ren for, maybe in 2017, I think, back when it was called Republic Protocol. And our focus at the time was dark pools, decentralized dark pools. And yeah, it was just a bunch of us uni students at the time with an ambitious idea to try and, solve the problem of dark pools in a decentralized space. And we were able to do that. We deployed to mainnet a DEX, a dark pool DEX in 2018. And then I think slowly realized...
Before you go on, I think a lot of our listeners will be somewhat confused as to what a dark pool actually is. So could you just explain what they are and why they're important?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think like at the time we had a couple connections with some people that were in the trading space, and something that they thought that would be interesting in the decentralized space, something that didn't exist at the time, was the concept of a dark pool, which meant that people could submit orders and do trades without the order book being visible, to prevent things like front running and price slippage when someone creates an order on a blockchain that's public with all the details. And then obviously if it's a large order, it might take some time to fill and people might front run it, causing the price to change. So we were trying to build an exchange that people could submit any sort of order to, but no one could see the order book. So others could just create orders, and if there's a corresponding order, then eventually it'll get matched without any sort of front running or slippage.
Cool. So that brings us to catalog.
Yeah, actually to Ren first, because we realized that at the time we deployed it on Ethereum and there actually wasn't a lot of liquidity on Ethereum. It was pretty early stages. So we realized that in order to make this dark pool exchange actually usable, we need to bridge some of the liquidity from Bitcoin, for example, these assets that had more liquidity than Ethereum, even like Zcash and things. So that's sort of how the idea of Ren came about. And we were trying to think how we can get these assets, or at least like a tokenized representation of these assets on Ethereum, so they could be used in these exchanges and people could, use them in dApps. And then we worked on that for, 2 or 3 years, the last couple of years, got that to mainnet. And, we bridged 10 or $11 billion to date. And towards the end of last year, myself and Susruth started Ren Labs, which is kind of like a development studio to help leverage the tech that we've built over the last few years and build applications on top of it and really bring some of this tech to the mainstream and retail audience.
So multi-chain.
And Catalog, so Catalog is the first project out of Ren Labs. And if you want, I can go into a bit about what Catalog is and how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've noticed definitely that my multi-chain existence has become easier with the advent of wallets and cross-chain DEXs, I guess. I mean, they're not fully cross-chain, but anything that avoids the need for a bridge in my mind is good. So why don't you tell us what Catalog is and what it is that it's doing?
Yep, I can take that. So yeah, like Catalog, the general idea with Catalog was that, to actually solve two problems in the space, where people are trying to buy and sell stuff even for new users. So the two biggest problems we saw in the cross chain or even DEX space is the concept of fragmentation, where there are a lot of completely fragmented DeFi markets Ethereum's DeFi market, Polygon, and all these things, where the liquidity is just can be traded internally between DEXs or between people within a single blockchain. And that is completely new, right? Completely a foreign concept for a completely new person coming into the system. They won't understand why they cannot actually buy Bitcoin with something like ETH or something on Uniswap, right? Because for them everything is blockchain, and they are just blockchains, and they should be able to sell and buy and sell stuff between each other. But it is completely different on how it actually works. So that was one of the biggest problems that we want to solve with Catalog. And the second one is this concept of gas, right? So even though since we have been using gas from the beginning, it is normal for us, but for someone who's completely new and getting into the space, the concept of gas, that if I have to send 100 USD to someone else, I have to actually have ETH to actually process the transaction, is completely new and completely foreign. So we wanted to figure out a way where we can just solve both these problems and build a almost like a user-centric like DEX, where like people can actually like buy or sell like any asset across the multi-chain to any other asset without thinking about gas or any of these like concepts. It's not that like gas does not exist in our system; it is completely abstracted away. So it is just like built into the fees that we actually charge them when they're using our DEX, and we just like create this experience where someone who just has, let's say, 10 Bitcoin can just like deposit 10 Bitcoin into our system, sell it to like whatever they want, let's say Ethereum, and get Ethereum on their like Ethereum on the same account. And on top of it, like the other thing that we wanted to do was that we did not want to like recreate all the liquidity that already exists in the existing blockchains, such as there is like a lot of liquidity in Uniswap, for example, right? And a lot of liquidity in Serum. We did not want to just like recreate everything in Catalog. So we wanted to build a system such a way that we just like leverage the liquidity that exists on Uniswap or Serum or any other like place, and actually create an experience that just, like a user comes in, can trade against like any DEX on any blockchain through our platform, and just like get whatever asset they're like looking for. That's like the general idea.
I think just to add to that, I think like over the past couple of months, or maybe even a year or so, we've started seeing a lot of different types of cross-chain solutions, and they all have their different trade-offs, whether it's like the type of assets they can support. Some of these solutions aren't able to support Bitcoin, for example. They're restricted to like smart contract chains. Some of them treat confirmations differently. They have different safety thresholds and requirements, assumptions, all of these things. I think even like wallets, so having to interact with different smart contract cross-chain wallets. One of the problems that we were facing was to do with liquidity, as Susrith mentioned. We recently started adding support for more and more kinds of tokens. I think we've got 30 now, but every single new token that we add support for in the REN system, we need to create liquidity pools for it on like 10 plus chains. And then you have to incentivize those liquidity pools and make sure that people on, for example, if we deploy REN, DAI or something, a wrapped asset on Avalanche, Polygon, Solana, etc., we need to create these pools and bootstrap them, provide incentives, all of these things. And then part of Catalog, it's a bit messy. And then part of Catalog is just like, how do we consolidate all of this liquidity in one place so that people can trade with it seamlessly, without having to worry about all of these, all this fragmentation.
Wow, a lot to dig into there. So let's start at the beginning. So you do away with gas. So there's a price, and the trader, gets quoted a price. And do they choose then which asset they pay the gas in?
So usually it's just like built into the price itself. So a user just like comes to our like app. They say, I want to sell Bitcoin. I want to sell 1 Bitcoin, and it might just show that like you will get 14 ETH. And if they say yes, like everything is taken into the account, and like they would just like get 14 ETH. So the gas would actually be built into the price itself. So the user does not even have to like think about the concept of gas. That's the thing that we wanted to achieve with our system.
It might actually be used to sorry to interrupt, to show you a demo when you're ready. We can, we deployed an internal mainnet release, and we can run you through it at some point in the call.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it'd be great. I don't know if you guys participated in the Yuga Labs other side drop, but man, that was just one of those kind of stark reminders of just how not fit for business this whole thing is. So that's one thing. The liquidity pools you're talking about, I'm really curious how you assemble all of that and what is in that liquidity pool, because it sounds difficult. It sounds really hard.
So yeah, the idea is that like we actually have some liquidity pools on Catalog itself that are purely cross-chain in nature. For example, liquidity pool from, let's say, Bitcoin to Ethereum, or like Zcash to Ethereum, or Doge to Ethereum. These kinds of assets do not actually natively exist on other blockchains, right? So we have to like create liquidity pools for those. And for those, we actually create like simple XY is equal to K pools, like Uniswap. And we actually like built in like impermanent loss protection, so that like people who are actually depositing funds into our pools do not actually lose like money for like impermanent loss and stuff. And for all these other pools, right, how we actually do this like more interesting, like how do we use like Uniswap liquidity from Catalog, is this concept we are calling like boundless liquidity. So it is a Ren VM specific concept. So it is like this cross-chain messaging protocol that we are building under Ren. So what it does is that like it actually allows our smart contract to actually call a different blockchain and execute a function on a different blockchain. And only if that function gets executed, the initial function would actually get executed. If like the second function actually fails or reverts, the initial function would also like just like stop, would like completely revert. Using this like concept, we actually implemented adapters on like Ethereum blockchain. Such that when like a user says, I want to, let's say, sell Bitcoin to Ape coins, then they would just like be, the price is calculated from BTC to ETH. And then like ETH to Ape trade actually happens on Uniswap. And that trade actually happens first. And like if that trade actually executes on the Uniswap blockchain, Uniswap or like 1inch, and like it is successful, the second side of the trade, which is like BTC to ETH, actually happens on Catalog. And the user ends up with like Ape tokens. If like any of these like steps fail, the whole thing fails and the user just like ends up with Bitcoin. So the biggest advantage the user is getting through a system like this, where like they don't have to use bridges, they don't have to use like multiple wallets to do this, and like different accounts, different gas tokens and any of that. And they're also getting this like concept, this atomicity. So for example, if you want to go from Bitcoin to Ape, right, you do not want to end up with any other asset than Bitcoin or Ape. For example, you do not want to end up with ETH or something, right? So you want to like either own Bitcoin that you already have or end up with Ape. So that is what we are trying to achieve with this like boundless liquidity concept, where like the whole transaction gets executed when like the user is trying to do something like that.
So this sounds a little bit like layer zero. Am I kind of right in that sense?
I think it is like somewhat similar. I mean, like the biggest advantage we have against like layer zero is the ability to support like non-smart contract blockchains like Bitcoin, Doge and stuff. But in a way, yeah, just like how these like transactions and like cross-chain communication works, it is similar because we are in the same space.
Yeah, I mean, listen, bridges suck. They just suck. Full. I mean, I always make this comparison. Like, you would never take all the gold that you own, put it on your back, and walk to another country. But that's effectively what you do with a bridge. It makes no sense to me. But yeah. I think we're kind of at this weird place right now where what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Nobody really knows anymore. It's not a payment mechanism. It's not a unit of account. It's not really a hedge against inflation, but like it's still massively valid, still massively important. But it's like this weird thing. So I seem to remember like Ren was always really like Bitcoin friendly and always plugged into the Bitcoin maxis as well. It felt like it was very complementary to that. So that's why this is interesting to see, because obviously there's more liquidity there than anywhere else. Yeah. And being able to link all of that up makes a ton of sense. This stuff fries my brain because I know how complicated it is. And I know that what you're trying to do, you can see it from the graphics, you can see it from everything else. You're trying to make it feel really friendly and really, really nice to use. So what have you done in terms of the UX to create that experience for users?
So, I mean, it's like from almost like a from scratch approach, right? Like where with like Ren and all these things, where we were like more focused on how can we build this like very cool tech and how can we just like get the most number of features, like get the most number of like different things and like bells and whistles and everything. But like with Catalog, the only thing that we wanted to like almost like achieve was this like user experience that we had in our minds, like this like a user coming to our system, being able to just like deposit Bitcoin to like any other address and just like be able to like trade and just like execute like trades on our system without having to think about any of these other complex crypto concepts that we invented and just like made people just like swallow and stuff. So the experience that we wanted to create was like very clear from day one. So we wanted to almost like create our like whole branding and like our like landing page and like our website based on this like initial experience that we had in mind. And yeah, we just like used it, and yeah, we just like worked with like some graphic designers, like and yeah.
I think like thinking through the ideal user experience for this kind of cross-chain exchange like going through all of the ideal, what would gas look like in this ideal exchange, or what would wallets look like, or confirmations, how would they work? I think a lot of things, like as we were designing this, we realized a lot of it was essentially just like how a centralized exchange works. So ultimately, like Catalog, when we started building it, we were thinking, how can we replicate a centralized exchange user experience, but in like a completely decentralized environment? So like when you see the demo and use the application, you'll see a lot of it is just like centralized exchange, like very similar to how a centralized exchange works. There's a reason they built it. Centralized exchanges, how they built them, right? They don't have these restrictions around, deposit times and having to deal with transactions across different blockchains and things like that. So when you see Catalog, it's very similar in the sense that you have one account, you deposit whatever kind of asset you want into it. And then once your assets are in that account, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, you can trade those assets. It's basically instant finality. Like when you're going from Bitcoin to ETH, as soon as that transaction is submitted, and if there's a transaction, since it's an AMM, essentially it'll be submitted immediately, and it'll be confirmed final immediately. Balances will update automatically. And then once you're done with Catalog, you want to take your funds elsewhere, you can withdraw them, wait the confirmations. Very similar to how that like traditional exchanges work.
Yeah, I was going to say everything you've been telling me so far, it sounds very much like a centralized exchange, from the fees to the boundless liquidity, this sense that this is just a platform. You ask of people that they take one step to trust your smart contracts when they deposit with you. So I guess the question is, who does your auditing? How have you been audited? How secure is all of this? Because like, I think right now people are like about everything,
I agree.
Yeah.
I can take that.
Sure.
So, I mean, like, yeah, in general at Trend, like we take like security like very, very seriously. So as a fintech company, I think it is like very important for like all of us to actually make sure that like we put customer funds like before everything else. All these like new features that we can add, or like all these other things that we could do. Like, I mean, security comes first. And if we lose like even like one, like, just like $10 worth of like assets of like a user, it is just like almost like a death sentence in like a normal situation. But like seems like crypto seems to be immune to that. But like we just like take it very seriously. Okay. We have this like almost like a clear like security, a lot of security processes in place where we continuously get like external and internal audits done on our like code bases, like both Ren and like now Catalog. So with Catalog, right now we have like some audits done by like external audit firms like Shield. And we have like a lot of like other internal audits planned with like a lot of people that we actually know in this space who are like very good like security engineers, and they would be like auditing our code and just like giving us like reports, which would be like more internal. And we have like more audits planned like within the next like 6 to 9 months, because a lot of these like top auditing firms have like a very long wait times, and we actually just like book those like audit slots from them, but like they would just like come in like 6 months from now. But right now we have like done like a lot of internal audits with like teams that we know, and some audits with like auditing firms like Shield.
Yeah, and I think with the underlying tech, like we've shown that, with Ren, it's always just been security first, safety first, and that's, it's meant that we've been slow with regards to, maybe supporting new assets or decentralizing the network completely, but like it's all intentional. It's all just so that we can bridge $10-11 billion assets up until now with no hacks, right? You see other cross-chain projects trying to rush certain things, which like, that's their approach, but they're also more, you've seen that there have been like a number of hacks over the months, large amounts, and that's just not our approach.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be able to trust all that, because I mean, it's very clear that scaled up user mass adoption can't be supported on Ethereum, but everyone kind of wants to be where the liquidity is and where the volume is, and that's on Ethereum. And like, how do you make it more straightforward for people to kind of go and play on another chain or be present on another chain and remove that friction? One of the interesting things I see here is that you are looking to create on and off ramp experiences, which would be another way of removing friction. Can you talk about kind of some of the features that are coming up for Catalog, and maybe where Red Labs as well might be building more functionality to plug into it?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think like almost at launch, we would actually have this like on and off ramp experience, like from Fiat. We are using like Banksa as our like Fiat partner. So they would actually be doing the on and off ramps, and they have like their own like KYC systems in place to actually make it happen. And yeah, like, so that was like another, as you said, like very important feature that we wanted to have in our system, because it just like decreases like, just like things that the people have to like do to actually enter our system. And like, for example, if someone wants to just like put in $100 from a credit card and just like start using our system, we wanted to make it possible so that like people can just like play around with our system. And yeah, like there are like a lot of things that we have like planned for catalog as like in the next year or so. I would say like some would be like NFTs. Like, I mean, that we want to like actually support NFTs, where like we want people to be able to like buy whatever NFT on like whichever blockchain using like whichever asset that is available, like on the whole multi-chain space. And so even before we can actually build the NFTs part, we wanted to like solve the liquidity part, where like people can turn any asset into any asset. So that would be like our initial focus, but we want to like add this like cross-chain NFT like platform experience into catalog, where like people can actually buy just like board apes with like Bitcoin directly and stuff like that. So that is one thing that we are like working on and we are like excited about. And there is like second thing would be like MEV. We want to like solve, like make sure that like people cannot extract MEV out of our system blatantly.
MEV being minor extractable value for those that don't know.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, we wanted to protect the users from the MEV side of things. That's like something we are working on, which is like an ongoing project. And the third thing is this concept of meta governance. So we'll have all these assets, right, like locked in our system, such as like almost like Bitcoin, ETH, and like we might also have assets like Rook, which is like a governance token that governs the Keeper DAO like protocol. So what people can actually do is people can actually participate in Keeper DAO's governance through all the Rook that is actually staked on the catalog system through the CAT tokens. So by holding like the CAT tokens, they can actually like vote on behalf of like the Rook that we actually hold in our system.
Kind of similar to what we've seen with projects like Convex, but the advantage we have is that because we have assets from all of the different chains, you can participate in governance across projects on, Ethereum, Avalanche, Solana, etc., just by holding this one token, which is pretty cool. And like the CAT token itself is this kind of unique sort of REN native asset in a way, that where it's one asset, but it's accessible on any chain at the same time. So it's kind of, unique concept that we're interested to.
It's like a Swiss Army knife for governance. Isn't it? Yeah, it's. I love all these secondary benefits of being what I call a meta community. Like Binance is a meta community. So it connects all these different communities together and reaps huge rewards because it takes the power from all of them. And this is like the decentralized version of it. And I think you guys are clearly smart enough to understand the power that you wield, actually, ultimately. And with that power, then comes a bunch of people who would like to leverage that power. And I wonder if you ever game that side of things out, like what kind of sizes of capital might come in and start kind of hoovering up CAT tokens to have this one size fits all governance, Thanos gauntlet, it's kind of that in a sense. But like, I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say it, but this is exactly what we've seen happen with Convex. And if you're saying we can have that, but across every chain, I mean, that really is Infinity Gauntlet kind of power in your hands. So, I wonder if you guys ever think that far ahead and try and think about the implications of what you built here.
Yeah, I think some of it is like you are kind of figuring it out as you go along. As you deploy new features, people might do certain things with it that you might have not have expected initially. They might gain traction. Certain features might gain traction over others. But at the same time, like I mean, Susrith as well, I think we both find the game theory aspect super interesting, just of blockchains in general. So always like to think about like how any sort of feature we introduce, how it could be gamed in any way. Like that's how we built REN in the first place. Like how we come up with these sorts of requirements for nodes and like, safety threshold requirements, liveliness, all of these sorts of things. It's all game theory. And I think like every new feature you introduce can be gamed in a way. So it's definitely fun to think about.
And like the other thing would be that like even with meta governance and stuff, right? We would not actually launch it for all chains, everything at once. We want to almost definitely do this like progressive overloading where like we just like say that let's actually just like try with like one asset and see like how people actually try to game it and like how people actually want to use our like cat tokens to actually get like votes there and just like do whatever they want to do there. And if there are like things that they are doing that are like we think are malicious, then we just like have to figure out how to put like breaks on things like that. And since it's a decentralized almost like system, like we would actually want community to come in and just like say that this is how we should be doing things. This is how it is like fair for everyone who is actually participating in the system. And like I think it would be like very cool to actually like slowly figure it out with the community and our users.
Yeah, so I'm looking at some of the other features here. Given that you've got participants that submit assets to your exchange, they can send assets between themselves for no cost. You're just using the pool and just basically moving numbers around. That's pretty interesting. The other thing that I saw here in the press release, you're calling yourselves the first metaversal exchange. Mm-hmm. Explain, is that just spin or what's your vision for the metaverse here?
So we have this like vision, right? Like just for like Ren and also like for Catalog is this like interface to actually make it happen. So when we actually started like Ren, like the idea was to actually connect these different blockchains that exist, right? So I mean like that was almost like what we were doing like for like the last 2 years and more. So like I mean extension to it, like what we have been thinking about is like how we can actually use like similar tech that we actually built at Ren to actually connect these metaversal worlds, right? Like, so everyone who wants to like build a metaverse is completely trying to build their own metaverse and they not want to like almost have this like, to do anything with the other people, right? So what we were trying to do with like Ren is that we wanted to create this infrastructure that would allow us to like communicate between two metaverses without any of them following any specific standard. We would actually like adhere to their standard and we will just like create a communication protocol between like two different metaverses and like so on and so forth. So we wanted to like almost like create this like cross-chain network of this like all these like metaverses and with Ren, and we wanted to make Catalog the place where you actually exchange stuff between metaverses almost. So where like a user can come in and say that I want to, let's say, sell this like game item for Bitcoin or like this game item for like some S word on like a different game or something. And we wanted all these like trades to actually happen through Catalog. So that's where like this whole concept of this like metaversal exchange came to be, like this central like, like marketplace where people from different metaverses can just like come in and just like trade their assets between. That's where it came from.
Well, no, I think it's completely correct because the idea is that a metaverse is a game and a game is this place and you go there. But I think people fundamentally misunderstand the impact of metaverse piping and technology, that it's really about composability, isn't it? It's composability of identity, composability of finance, composability of assets. And also, composability of reputation. I think that's what's going to be really interesting for people, that your wallet and its history and where you've been, what you've interacted with over time is going to become an incredibly valuable piece of your metaverse identity, and being able to travel with that wherever you go, one over chain, that's the big game, 100%. I completely. Interesting enough, we're trying to come up with something here, and we know that the technology we need exists already, but it's on Kusama. And we're like, it's on Kusama. Why can't it be on ETH? So we need to solve that. And so I guess
Kusama with everything else, right?
Yeah, exactly. How do we connect Kusama with an audience that we know is primarily on ETH in a way that they won't even know, that they won't even care? It's just that, and like, this is why I want you guys to have this built and have the NFT sitting there, and I can just go, all right, we're just going to plug in Catalog. Question for you: how do you see this plugging into? I mean, for instance, something like the other side for Yuga. How would you see this plugging into their metaverse ecosystem, everything else? Because I'm imagining that you could just put catalog under the hood, reskin it, and do something else with it, and then all the trades are executed with you guys. Is that kind of what we could do with it? I've stumped you.
Yeah, I think that's it's a tough one. I think ideally it all happens through Catalog's own interface, but people are able to plug in to Catalog through their own exchanges and interfaces so that they can access the liquidity that we're creating, just so that they don't have to recreate that elsewhere. It would kind of suck if we had that same Kusama sort of problem where everyone was then forced to like come into this isolated Catalog network to then do some sort of trade and then exit out of it. It would be nicer if everyone could just like kind of stay in this Catalog network, but also have access to every kind of network at the same time. So I think, yeah, that is the end goal, but still a lot of hurdles we need to overcome to get there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I mean, but the fact that you're doing it this way and as what I can see is consumer friendly as it is really cool. Why don't you guys show me it? We've been talking about it. Like it's time to see it. Give me a demo.
Cool. Do you see this?
I know. I definitely see it. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So I will start from scratch. I'll disconnect. So currently I am on the Catalog exchange that's deployed to mainnet. We have a waitlist at the moment. So if you visit catalog.fi, you can join the waitlist. You'll be given a spot in the queue. I think there's 70, 80,000 people in there. But if you refer your friends, you can climb up that order and we'll be rolling it out to people in the waitlist shortly. I'm lucky enough to have access already. So all I have to do is connect my Web3 wallet. It doesn't matter what kind of wallet you have, whether it's MetaMask, Trust, whatever. You just have to connect some sort of Web3 wallet to your cat account. The first time you do this, it'll ask you to create a cat name, which is essentially an ENS name for your Catalog account. So it's an account. The difference between an ENS name and a Catalog account is that your cat account can store any kind of asset. So it can store Bitcoin, your NFTs, ERC20s, the whole lot. So I've already done this. I've created this account called testing.cat. And I already have some funds in here. I've got some ETH. If I want to deposit some more, I simply specify an amount, whatever that is, hit deposit, and it'll just ask me to hit submit on MetaMask. I can do the same thing with Bitcoin, which is a bit more interesting because you can't do this with a lot of traditional DEXs. But say I want to do 0.01 Bitcoin, I want to get that into my Catalog account. I hit deposit. And what I'm given here is a QR code. And the way this works is if I want to send funds to this account from an existing Catalog account, I can just send my friend my username, my cat name, and they can send me Bitcoin. Otherwise, I'm given this Bitcoin address. That is the address tied to my Catalog account for the Bitcoin blockchain. So if I want to deposit funds into my cat account, similar to a centralized exchange, you have an address and you deposit funds to it. So that's pretty familiar. And then here we have the Bitcoin from Fiat on-ramp. So you can buy Bitcoin directly with USD using Banksa. And all you do here is I specified 0.01 Bitcoin. So it's calculated the amount here. And I can create the order. Do I want to click that?
Yep.
Okay.
Then it asks you for details.
Yep.
And once you finish it, it will ask you for your debit card details. And once you make the payment, you get your funds deposited into your Catalog account.
Yeah. So I'll just go back now. And what I'll do instead is, instead of depositing Bitcoin into my account, I'll show how easy it is to go from the ETH that I already have in this account to Bitcoin. So I'm just on the swap page now. Select ETH. And I want to go to Bitcoin. Obviously, this is just a few assets that we're testing with initially.
Can I just say how nice it is to see an interface that isn't a direct copy of Uniswap?
Yeah.
I mean, my God, how many times have you seen that? But
Yep.
So what I'll do here is 0.1 ETH. Sure.
You don't have enough. You don't have enough.
I will not do 0.1 ETH.
Yeah.
That's why I got people watching over me. 0.002 ETH. Yeah. So I should have 0.0052 after this trade.
Careful, big spender. So looking at the fees there, and they just built into the cost basically. So it's like
exactly
20 cents or so.
Using an AMM under the hood, and I actually received more Bitcoin. I'm doing an ARB here, which is nice. And any gas gets abstracted away into the price that you're receiving. So I actually don't need to submit any ETH transactions, any Bitcoin transactions, anything like that, which is kind of cool. So I would just hit submit swap now. And all I have to do is sign a message just to authorize the transaction. Came from my Catalog account that's tied to my, or controlled by my Web3 wallet in my MetaMask. And so it successfully swapped. So that took about 30 seconds all up, a minute. Yeah. And you see 0.0052 ETH, and we've received a Bitcoin. And now I can withdraw that. I can send that to Sisrith. I'm going to dox him right now. His name's tester1.cat. Or I can not send it to Sisrith because I want to keep my Bitcoin. But yeah, that's about it. I think, have I missed anything, Sisrith?
Yeah. I think that's about it. You can actually send it and like show how easy it is.
I mean, the stupid thing is it all looks so utterly simple and so,
I know, like,
so obvious. And like, if you knew what was going on underneath, it would just blow your mind. And I think that's the thing that is so kind of surprising for people from outside the space. I had a question for you about, so you say there's an AMM under the hood. Where are the price oracles coming from? How is that engineered?
So we actually use like XY is equal to KMM, which is same as what Uniswap uses. So the price is actually like based on like the people actually trading it. So like when you actually like trade against this pool, the new price is set. For example, if that price actually is different from like the market price, someone else will add you back to the market price. So the market prices are almost like established within the exchange. So we do not have to use oracles. Usually, using oracles is always like dangerous because there are like a lot of attacks that are possible when using oracles. So we did not want to go in that direction. We wanted to go with like a simpler XY is equal to K model. And yeah, we have like other like cool things that we are like doing on top of it that actually helps us like decrease the impermanent loss that is like created in our system. But yeah, like we just use XY is equal to K pools.
Yeah, the main idea is just to abstract the concepts of IL, staking, whatever else, liquidity pools, all of these things from the users so that they don't really have to think about it. They deposit money into their Catalog account and they start earning yield on it immediately based on the fees that they're getting in the AMM. And then under the hood, there's a liquidity manager role, all of these things, part of the Catalog network that are handling the rebalancing of these pools, everything for you. And then you're just getting a cut of the fees, which is nice. So it's almost like...
So just before you go on, when you deposit into Catalog, you immediately start earning fees on those deposits.
Yeah.
So you just gone into a big liquidity pool and now you're a liquidity provider in that moment. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, so there's kind of tangible benefits for just using the platform, even if you're not trading.
Exactly. So go on. I'll go. So the idea was that like we wanted to almost like make Catalog a system where people want to like keep their funds in. So they just like come in, just like put their funds here, just like transfer to whoever they want to like transfer to within our system and like withdraw only when they have like something else they want to do with it. So we wanted to almost just like create this nice experience where they actually deposit money and they earn this like savings interest like they would actually earn in a normal bank account, just like so that people just like deposit one Bitcoin. They might get like a small fees from all these like trades that are happening, and it could be like small, but it's just like consistent interest they would be earning on their assets.
Similar to something like Binance, you're not depositing, doing a trade and then withdrawing a lot of the time. You deposit and then your funds just stay there for however long you're trading for. And like Catalog can almost be used as a cross-chain wallet in a way, so that instead of having a Bitcoin wallet on your, like an application on your desktop, a Zcash wallet in your Google Chrome browser, and then a bunch in Firefox, whatever, you just have this Catalog wallet that you can deposit any kind of fund into, and then they're all just there, right? You can withdraw them when you need them. It's just a simple wallet that holds everything, and you also have some nice trading functionality in there as well.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about how a catalog will be composable with other stuff. I kind of feel like people are going to set up little kind of shops on catalog instead. So there'll be little, extended apps or things that take advantage of what's in there. Interesting. So last question for you. How do I earn the cat token if I'm on the platform?
So initially, like almost like when we actually launch and for the first 3 months, the interest is actually paid in like both CAT tokens and the actual BTC as well. So that's how like we are like doing this like wheel farming, where like people who actually use our system, deposit funds and like start trading would actually earn CAT tokens consistently. So yeah, I mean, that's how you would actually earn CAT tokens starting on launch.
Very cool. Well, this has been great. I'm really excited to see products like this take off, and I'm stoked to see it built on Ren as well. It's just one of those projects that I kept an eye on for the longest time. And I mean, dark pools and dark nodes. Come on, it's shadowy supercoded stuff. It's great. It's got a kind of sexy appeal to it. So congratulations, guys. I'm stoked to see it out in the world, and looking forward to see where you go next. And thanks so much for showing it to us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us on again. It's been a pleasure.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Best of luck. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Have a good one.
Bye.
See ya.